will now call the meeting of the Fayette County School Corporation Board of School Trustees Business Meeting to order. We're here at the Administration Building. It's Tuesday, February 11th, 6:30 p.m. And I'd like to ask everybody to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. We're glad to have such a full house. I think we have some guests tonight. Randy, are you going to introduce our bowlers?
I'll introduce the coach. As many of you are aware, we had a very successful bowling season this year, and I have. It is my pleasure to introduce the coach, Caleb Jordan. He's going to say a few words about the team and the season.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Caleb.
Hi. Well, we had an incredible season, actually. We had a conference of 10 teams, and overall we finished third with a 10-3 season. We also went on to sectional from there, which we won first place. And then individually, two of our guys placed first and second as well. And then we also had another guy place ninth. And I guess I should introduce the guys that came. This is Jordan Abraham, and Dakota Littleton, Peyton Rowland, and Garrett Davidson. And Garrett's the one that came in first place during sectional against Wesley Boyd. And it was absolutely incredible to not only win sectional that day, but to have the top two guys at sectional as well, which is really cool. From there, we went to regional where we placed third overall. And then at regional as well, Wesley had, Wesley I think went 10th place. Or not 10th place, sorry. I wrote it all down and I'm messing this up. He was third, and I should remember that.
Much better.
Yeah, much better. And then from there we went to semi-state where we placed sixth. And then finally we went to state and finished seventh overall. In addition to all those, we had a ton of state records that we kind of made with them, which we had the third highest team series with a 2166. We had the second highest team game in the state with 1132. Wesley Boyd had the 10th highest average in the state at a 224. And Garrett had the 6th highest series in the state with a 524. So, and that was on a 2-game, so it doesn't sound as good as typical 3-game, but it's very impressive to shoot a 534 in 2 games. So, but yeah, overall these guys are an amazing group of guys. We unfortunately lose Brandon Truman this year, who couldn't make it because of work. We also had Jamison Dykes and Wesley Boyd, who obviously couldn't come either. But yeah, we lose Brandon this year, but the rest of these guys we've got for another 2 years, so I expect a whole lot more success for sure. So
Pressure's on.
yeah.
Congratulations, you guys.
I do have a question though, guys. What's your goal for next year? Because I think goals are very important for any team, any organization. So you saw what it was like, right? Any takeaways anybody want to share? Put you on the spot here about what you were most impressed about, or what you went wow, or how close you feel you are to being in the top 3 possibly in the next. Do you think that's feasible?
I think next year it could definitely be top 3.
Really?
Definitely. I think it could be first place.
Wow. Do you have some kids coming up that you know of that?
We actually, there's one that I know of, but he's a few years away from high school yet. So other than that, I mean, we only had 7 guys try out. And those are the 7 guys we ran with. So we're really hoping that next year, definitely brings something.
Seems like this could grow the program.
Oh, yeah.
It does.
Yeah, I hope so.
Evidently you found the right 7.
Yeah, definitely got lucky for sure.
And how often do you guys, how many nights in the week do you guys play typically? Every night?
I'd say at least once a week.
Once a week?
probably.
Okay.
About 3 to 4. So.
Takes dedication. But we're very proud of you guys.
Yeah.
Great
CHS.
accomplishment.
So thank you.
You guys are welcome to leave if you don't want to stay through this. Just saying.
Or you can stay for the next hour.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, they are.
All right. Next up, Kelly McCullum. Come share with us about wellness.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't know it was for us.
Are we going fishing?
Oh, a lot better than Marbs.
It's not, it's cold because it's in my car.
Oh, okay. Oh, yum. Cranberries.
Dried cherries. Cherries.
Even better. It's a snack. Ooh, even better.
The papers are still coming around. Papers are still coming around, but I'll talk and we can.
He gave us a treat first, right?
Yes. Across the corporation, social emotional learning has been an initiative in every building. The Wellness Committee is focused on goal setting and self-care strategies to support the staff and students this school year. Some of the things that we've done, and when you get your packets, you can read over those later. I've kind of identified what each building is doing. But across the corporation, we have standing desks for teachers and administrators at Grandview and Maplewood and out here at central office. I go around and see those being used quite frequently. Yoga is happening across the corporation 2 nights a week. Done. Everyone is ready to be the best for their students. And Chartwells is still supporting us with our healthy food decisions and snacks and meetings. And this year, season with the year, over 200 kids from kindergarten through 6th grade ran that race.
How many kids again?
Over 200 in the fall race, yep. And then the CHS Food Pantry was moved to Maplewood, the kids' kitchen cupboard now, so that's another initiative that we're focusing on with our families. So did at a conference, and it's kind of focusing on just different areas of wellness, so physical, occupational, emotional, financial, and spiritual. And that's something you can do on your own time, but it's interesting to see those results.
Is there a scoring system, like if you
There
have so
is.
many?
Not necessarily, if you kind of look at the wheel, the closer you are to,
Oh, okay. To 10 is better?
yes.
Okay.
So if you're all in the middle.
So if you're in the middle, you're struggling.
You don't want to know.
I've had the good fortune to be on the Wellness Committee the last 2 years, and it's really exciting to hear, and also, I don't know if it was Kelly's initiative, but there's community people now that are included. So like Becky Marble comes, and I think Tara Madden comes from HealthWorks, and so the input and the creativity, and I know continual curiosity to continue this sort of thing, and Kelly does a good job of also injecting the staff with excitement. The runners, obviously, that gets the most attention, the kids running, because that's just been so exciting. Well, it's cute, but it's exciting and it's good for the kids to have wellness efforts. But I just think like all the different things, it used to just be brain breaks, but I think kids are also doing some mindfulness in the classrooms, is that right?
Mindfulness and just talking about the self-regulation strategies of the corporation with Ashley Steffi and their teachers and all of those things that we're implementing. And I know that's carrying out into the parent aspect with preschool. We're implementing some of those things, so we're definitely starting at the bottom and working our way up.
Yeah, it's really great to see.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks for the treats. Okay. And everybody's done chewing their little snacks. I'd like to seek a motion to approve the agenda as submitted and amended.
I so move.
Thank you, Ann. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any patron comments on agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The approval of the minutes from the regular business meeting of 1/14/20. The personnel report, which includes retirements, resignations, leaves of absences, etc. The approval of the January 2020 claims, number 55565 through 55808. The annual list of outstanding checks more than 2 years old. Sale of salvage engines and cosmetology client chairs. Acceptance of resignation from the Fayette County Library Board. Appointment to the Fayette County Library Board. And donations, a donation of $2,800 from Reed Health Connersville to Kids Kitchen Cupboard to be used for hygiene and food products. A donation of $1,585.98 from Franklin County Community Foundation to WCC Precision Machining Program to be used for student rewards. A donation of welding supplies valued at $7,000 from Indiana Oxygen and Muncie, and sheet metal valued at $500 from Elevator Equipment Company in Richmond to be used in the WCC welding program. We're always amazed at the wonderful donations we get. So seeing the consent agenda, do I hear a motion? Thank you, Lori. Do I have a sign? Motion.
Classified staff, we have Benjamin Brecka Huntsman, a reader and educational assistant at Eastview. Georgia Russell, special education assistant at Eastview. And Meredith Young, a bus aide in our transportation department. For extracurricular, we have a few. Jamie Becker, assistant varsity softball coach. Audrey Burke, varsity girls golf coach. Paul Wojtik, JV baseball coach. And we also have another recommendation to bring tonight. There's two parts of this recommendation. One is for our head football coach, and the other is for a teaching position that's to be determined at a later time. So I'd ask Justin to come up, bring his fiance and his family with him. This is Justin Jackson. We had, when our football opening became available, we had 17 applicants, a lot of diverse backgrounds, a lot of good experience. Out of those 17 applicants, Justin exemplifies what we're looking for in a coach for Fayette County Schools. Justin has a wealth of knowledge in coaching football. Justin has a degree in social studies from Northern Kentucky, a master's degree in physical education and kinesiology from Ball State. He's coached at some successful high school programs in an assistant capacity, and also in an assistant capacity with the collegiate program. So I'll let Justin tell a little bit more about himself.
So like Mr. Hensley said, I've been coaching now for 12 years, finishing up teaching my 4th year. And like I mentioned to you guys before, past about decade or so, I've been looking to fit into a position like this. Everything I've been doing, football coaching wise, all the different positions I've been at, taking the best that I could find at places and taking the worst that I could find and throwing those to the side and trying to culminate them together so that I can end up in a moment like this. I appreciate everybody who has brought me here tonight. I have my fiance with me, my mom and dad back here as well. My support system, they've been great over the past 12 years, over the past 2 years, and I know that if I got them, I'm going to be doing well. 12 years for coaching. Come 30 overall, right? Also, yeah, exactly. Also, they're not here tonight, but every coach that I've had the opportunity to coach for, I know that I can't thank them in person, but Ryan Knight at Lawrenceburg, Rand Ballard at South Dearborn, Jimmy Graves at Pike High School, now at Lawrence Central High School, Coach Tommy Tuberville, and Coach Don Stonefield. Extremely appreciative for everything that they have done for me well, and I hope the new...
These are words we like to hear.
Yes.
Thank you.
And for the coaching position too, that will start effective July 1 with that, I believe, as well. So it's listed August 3rd with the teaching position.
Correct.
But you'll start football prior to that too.
Yeah, we'll get going a little bit soon.
You're gonna be going pretty soon here, I think, with call out and stuff, but I just wanted to make a note of
Okay.
that for that piece.
Okay. Well, thank you, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Welcome, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, seeing the personnel report, I'd seek a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mark. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ann. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And we'll have a reception.
And just for anybody who's interested, we'll have a reception afterwards to welcome Justin and meet his family. Okay, now we'll move on to the approval of the Education Hall of Fame select.
Thank you to establish, and I'm asking for affirmation Audrey Cloyd and a teacher Tanya Stork for 2-year terms. Mark Beard is in the second of his 2 years.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. I would like to seek a motion to approve the Education Hall of Fame selection.
I so move.
Thank you, Ann. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Discussion items. We'll begin with the Resource Facility Planning. Mr. Collins.
Thank you. I think most everyone had a chance to tour the Resource Center, and this is really, as we have to conduct our business in public, as a public school board, really just wanted to get some feedback from you and thoughts on the building. Mr. Hensley had shared some of our concerns with some significant issues that we're going to be facing with that building, with roof, with foundation, HVAC, handicapped accessibility. And I just wanted some open dialogue and try to get some idea of what our next direction might be with that. Currently, we have all Fayette County school staff moved out of that building. We had Title I staff there for a number of years, and then our Head Start staff was there, and we were able to move those staff members into buildings that we use. We are using some of the space in the high school, in our student services area, and then Maplewood is housing the Head Start staff. So really, all we have left there is the East Central Education Service Center, and they've been tenants of ours for a long time. They pay us $5,000 a year rent, which is a very nominal amount of rent. They are currently looking for another facility, and they're looking at something possibly more centrally located in their region. When the director was looking at possible sites, Newcastle, that I-70 area seems to be more centrally located. They sometimes have people who won't want to drive all the way to Connersville, who are up in the Muncie area and even a little beyond that. So they are currently looking for another site, and they know that, the future of this building, we're uncertain because of the repairs that need to be done. So I'm just seeking some guidance for cabinet. What are your thoughts after touring the building, and, what should our next steps be from your perspective? You have some
It's
thoughts.
pretty obvious it's a money pit right now, just structurally, and Brian did a great job, I think, of showing us what was going on down there, and it's not good.
Can you explain, I wasn't there, I know because we've had lots of correspondence back and forth with Scott. Maybe share with the public what you saw, that since they didn't get to see it.
Just the building itself's crumbling,
Okay.
foundation's crumbling. I couldn't believe, I didn't know, and I've been around forever, all the gas lines that are on the outside of the building that can easily be damaged or tore up by people, and have been, that we have to continually repair. So it's just something that I don't think as a board, with the taxpayer money that we would have to spend to do anything with it, is gonna be a viable option for us. That's my opinion.
Also, with the new field house, one of the issues was the south gym, which is used a lot for practice and for things. But with the advent of the new field house being open soon, that takes that particular piece off the table. We have something far superior to replace that old south gym with. And it's just a money pit. It was not built the way we would build a building today. All the electrical stuff on the inside is on the outside of the walls because the walls are cement block. And things have changed, and it's just not a viable thing to try to keep. I don't know if we can sell it. I don't know exactly what we can do with it, but as an entity for us to use, it's just not viable any longer.
Even with all that said, the building does have its issues, but I still think, obviously I'm not a structural engineer, but I think the building's still safe. Obviously,
We wouldn't have people,
practicing.
it's just. there's no-
Correct.
yeah.
It's not, totally dilapidated, yeah, it's got some serious issues, and I think to bring it up to today's code, yeah, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars. But then again, to tear it down is hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so, I still think the building has some value, it's just not valuable to us anymore, especially with the field house. And so, what to do with it going forward? You know, to give you at least my 2 cents, I don't know if there's anybody in the community, any entity that's, you know, looking for another space, I have no idea, but, you know, I don't know if gifting it is a possibility, I don't know if, you know, if it's sellable, you know,
Do we
like for
have
all
to
the reasons we
leave
just
it
talked about, but.
empty for charters? It doesn't apply to the
It's not,
school?
no, it does not apply to that for charter
Okay.
use or anything because it's not been used as a school building.
Okay.
I checked with Michelle Cooper on that.
Okay.
You know, there have been some conversations, you know, I talked to one person in the community who's a business owner, and I think the sentiment from that person was, there's just so much to do with it. You know, and what we did with Orange and Alpina, I came back home right at the tail end of that process, and one of my first meetings was in the middle school auditorium when we listened to business plans with proposals, and there were not any plans that were viable that could be followed through, you know, and that's something we have to face, because if we want to maintain it, we're going to have to do some work, even with the heat, you know, we're barely getting by with keeping that gym warm enough for practices. We're going to have to do some major replacements of those units, and that's where I guess we're at is, do we want to put more money into it? If we leave it empty, I fear we'll have vandalism.
Right.
Because there are a lot of kids that go over there and hang out in the evenings, and at this point, they've damaged some lines and things, but if the building's empty, you know, I fear we'll have broken windows and kids getting in and doing other things, or we could have people staying in the building for, you know, so we're gonna have to just be conscious of that, and that's why I'm seeking your guidance on what would you like us to pursue as far as next steps, you know.
What do you think our options are?
Yeah.
Tearing down, I'm guessing would be well over 100,000,
Well, I think you quoted.
probably closer to 2 at least,
Yeah.
which is a lot of money too.
Well,
But it's gone.
But it's not a liability, that's the other piece, if we just leave it empty, it's a liability.
If you leave it empty, after a couple of years, the insurance company will come calling. And they will want you to dispose of it. That's sort of where we got in the timeline with Orange and Alpine.
Exactly.
And I think those are perfect examples of what can be done. So for example, the Alquina community, the township, wanted to take that property on. And we were able to basically gift that to them. Because they were another governmental entity. And there's hoops that have to go through. And then Orange, we were not gifting that to anyone. So then you have to go through the process of getting 2 appraisals, hiring an auctioneer, auctioning the property off, and going through all of that. So if you choose to sell it, if it's not to a governmental entity, then you're gonna have to go through and pay for the appraisals and go through that whole process of taking bids.
So if a non-governmental entity came and showed interest in purchasing the building, would we still have to go through
Yes.
auction?
You have to determine a value
Okay.
of the property.
But that's not, I mean, the cost for doing that, how high is that to do the appraisal? and all
I
that?
forget, I think we paid $2,500 for each one of them for the Orange property.
Okay.
So we're looking at thousands of dollars rather than hundreds
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
tearing down.
Right.
Well, and in the meantime, we've got, you know, gas meters that we're paying for every month. If we use zero gas, we're still paying for the meter just to sit there.
Including insurance and
utilities.
pulling all of it down. I think it's at a minimum $11,000 a year, just
Just to sit.
to sit. Insurance for it's about $7,000 a year. And that doesn't matter if anyone's in there or not,
Right.
so.
I mean, I think it makes sense to consider selling it. I mean, what, because there aren't a lot of options. that you should-
Solicit for it, at least
Yeah, right.
see what's out there, and if you don't get any takers, then, well,
If we sell it to a governmental agency, we have a lot more flexibility then as to what we can charge.
Yeah, you're testing my memory, and that's the only time I've ever gone through this process in my career. So we'd have to rely on Michelle's advice.
Well, yeah, obviously.
But there are statutes that allow, we did that with, didn't Alquina want some of the equipment, the playground equipment
Yes,
from
they
Orange
did.
also?
Yes.
So we also went through the process of where you have like resolutions, whatever governmental entity wants it, says, it's been determined there's no value, blah, 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 blah. We want this item, and then on our side, we don't want this item.
Right.
But there were resolutions, like resolutions or mirror resolutions, dealing with that gifting process.
Remember that.
And then, this is probably a dumb question, but is there any salvage value to it?
Haven't even looked into that yet. I'm gonna assume that there's probably not much, if any, just because
No,
everything in there is so dated. As far as equipment goes, some of the HVAC, we have some residential units in there that we could probably use in different areas. We could pull some parts off of the lift that's there. Now, that lift there is no longer usable, but we still have the same lift at the middle school, so we could use some of that. But as far as the lockers or anything, I honestly, I don't see anything that's worth even looking into.
You were concerned too that once we dug into that, there might be some asbestos in that building.
Well, I'm 99% sure that there is.
So then we have those abatement costs, which are just really high.
Well, that makes it real marketable.
Okay?
Say it.
That's one of the things that you have to disclose.
Scott, did we have some businesses that were partially interested in part of the lot or anything?
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
I don't think so, no. I talked to one gentleman, and I don't think there's interest now. Several people have given me their opinion, as you know, that's, and I always hear the comment, we need more parking for Spartan Bowl. That would be great for graduation and ball games to have that, but then you're talking about a lot of money to put a parking lot in. So, that's a whole nother issue. It's just one of those it's this big monstrosity of an old building that was the add-on to the original building that didn't burn, and here we are. So, I guess just what's your pleasure on direction? I've heard, looking at possibly selling
Lease or
it.
whatever solicitation,
Yeah.
you see what's out there, you just never know, I don't think that's gonna hurt for X
I
amount
think
of
that would
years.
be our first step.
Yeah,
I agree with Andy.
And then, if we just don't get anybody, any takers, and just zero interest in it whatsoever, like JD's saying, at some point, we gotta make a decision and just get rid of this thing, and it's an albatross at this point for us.
My worry is liability down the road.
Yeah, particularly with the location, where it's located.
There's a lot of kids, the green space is fantastic there, there's a lot of kids that play there.
I know.
Over the summer, that's so neat about it, you see a bunch out there playing on that lot.
Well, I just wonder if I don't know, I'm really going off into the area I don't know anything about, but I don't know if the city would buy it for green space, not the building, but if we tore down the building. But
I'm on the
then,
park board, I could ask.
but then you might wanna just let people park on the grass. I don't know. Another subject,
Yeah.
another time.
I could bring that up at the next redevelopment committee,
Oh,
see
that's
what the
true.
thoughts are there.
Yeah, and I could bring it up with the park board also.
Just kind of put some feelers out.
And that's what I've been doing, just, mentioning it to people I think might be now. Leslie mentioned a couple of people in the community too that we could check with. In an ideal world, I'd love to see somebody use it and be beneficial for an organization or a group, that's serving homeless or something. I just think getting it up to code and the money to spend, I don't know if we want to spend 500,000 plus to get it where it needs to be. That's the big issue.
I think, there are a lot of grants out there, if you look at the whole pattern though, what was done there. And I'm not saying that needs to be turned into, senior housing or anything, but I think those you look at the old pattern mill and you go, oh my gosh, you know, what can you do with that? You know, that thing's been there for years, and now look at it, it's amazing.
It's great.
You know, it's a great asset to the
Right,
community.
right.
That's great.
It's another possibility with, you know, possible grants out there. I mean, you just don't know until you start to really solicit and do some
Offer it.
talking, you know? Yeah.
Would that be something that the economic development situation would look into? Because I know with Pattern Mill, they had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm on that board. I mean, I can talk with them about it.
Yeah, because
So-
I know that they've had a lot to do with Pattern Mill, because that was not the original plan for Pattern Mill.
Right. I remember that. Well, I just need some thoughts from you, so you've given some information for us to just get a feel for where you're at. And Lori, did you have any thoughts or?
No, I just think we need to open it up if there is anyone interested, because nowadays people are repurposing these old buildings for all different uses. I mean, we have churches in the area that people are turning into residents and all that's been on the market, and we've never seen that before. Churches never used to come up for sale, but that is a big thing now of interest to people, so you never know what someone would want to use that space for.
So are we going to look for a governmental entity?
I think anybody that wants it.
Anyone.
You want to go first with government? Sure.
If there are
Easiest,
other
the least
people,
amount of
I mean,
groups,
even nonprofit groups do not fit the identity of a governmental entity. So even if there's a homeless shelter that might be a 501c3, you will have to hit the pause button if that's your only interest and get your appraisals.
Right.
Pay to get your appraisals
Yeah.
at that point in time. If it's governmental and you're going to work something out, you will not have to do that. So once you gauge the interest, you may have to say, wait.
Hang on, yeah.
Because we have to see what it's worth.
Sure.
And I will tell you also on that, if they don't want to pay for it, then what you have to do is jump through more hoops to be able to show that the value of the cost of tearing it down exceeds the value of the property. And then there are some steps that you can go through to be able to work out something. But
A lot of work.
it's not gonna be a short process.
No, it's not.
No.
But I think we should put a timeline on that. I mean, I don't think we should drag this out for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, that's ridiculous, but, you know, I don't know what that timeline looks like. I don't know if it's 6 months, I don't know if it's a year, but I don't know what that's like. When does East Central moving out? Do they,
June 30.
okay.
Well, I think that if we go through another winter, we're paying for a lot over the winter.
Yeah.
So maybe set that timeline for 6 months.
Since they've already, you know, notified us that they're moving and that they've been told by us that that's the plan, that gives us some flexibility. So we'll work on this and then I'll update you at our next meeting and where we're at. And, you know, we can look at what we did in the past with our property and I'll talk with Michelle and we'll work with her. And I just wanted some guidance from you on how to proceed. It's not gonna be a short process more than likely, and it's gonna take some time. And it's gonna probably take some money unless we can find somebody who's willing to buy it. Or, you know, go through the necessary steps.
And you hate to just tear something down if it can be used by someone else, you know,
Right.
that's just it. You hate to waste,
That's the
you know.
tough part.
See, that's it, so.
All right,
All right.
anything else? Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we're on to the next discussion item, the early childhood facility elementary redistricting. Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. For those in the audience, this is about 2 hours, so if you need to go out and take a break. I'm kidding. I'm getting, Daryl's looking at me back there like,
Who knows?
I do
Time
have
it might be
a
3.
PowerPoint here, so you all may want to move around a little bit, just to be able to see it. I put a lot of work into this, so I don't want you to miss it. So, we had talked about our dream of creating that early childhood center.
Is that too much?
It's all right. No, it's,
No.
that was all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, just to let you all know where we're at, we have done some things over the last couple of years to try to consolidate and coordinate our early childhood programming with our Head Start classes. And we've created 3 Title I preschool classes. So this is a breakdown of where we're at now with our preschool programs in our schools. So Maplewood, we moved 3 Head Start classrooms there. 2 were from Eastview, and then the other was from Magic Moments. And so those classes are there currently. We also have opened up 2 Title I preschool classrooms, and then we have the developmental preschool classroom that we have housed there. And so that gives us a total of 6 at Maplewood. We've also been able to move our Head Start staff, all the support staff, and Kelly and her team into Maplewood. It made it a little bit crowded, but between her and Stephanie, they made it work. Can-do attitudes, I appreciate. Grandview currently still houses its 2 Head Start classrooms, and then we have 1 additional Title I preschool at Grandview. And then Fayette Central, Charlene Stanley's class has been out there for a number of years, and she's sort of that Lone Ranger out there and has been for a long time, so she has the 6th Head Start class there. So total, we are currently serving 263 children in our preschool, which is fantastic. And I think it's become a very popular program, and parents are very excited about it, and we're seeing tremendous growth. So some data, some information about it. Of the 263 current kiddos, 23 are kindergarten transition kids, where they're being double dipped into preschool programs for a full day experience. So these kids, we're getting them ready for kindergarten with this flexibility, with having our classrooms, enough of them at one building, we have that flexibility to get them into 2 half-day programs. First steps, this feeds into our developmental preschool. These are those kids who need extra support, kids who are coming to us where we know they're going to be transitioning into developmental preschool. Typically, we have 10 or fewer kids moving into that program. We have 28 currently projected for next year. So that may be something we currently have to look at, is adding an additional class there. We're not ready to do that, but we've had discussions. So we may need to add an 11th preschool class, just as an FYI. Some preschool data. This is really good stuff. I just want you to read that first one. I won't have to read it for you, but knowing where our kids come in at kindergarten in the fall on NWA. It's pretty impressive. Over 2/3 of our kids are at or above grade level coming into kindergarten. That wasn't the case. So we're seeing that this title program is working, and it's benefiting and impacting our kids. And then we look ahead to next year. Kelly, of course, is a great recruiter and gets the word out, but we have 72 spots for next year's Title I pre-K classes. We already have 55 interested kids after our first attempt, our first recruiting attempt. That's pretty good when you look at this timeline, with where we're at, just after, in early February, we're already at that point. So what are the benefits? Just for your information, some things that we look at. And Kelly, when I ask her about this, she gets excited every time and starts sharing back, just to be able to have all our consolidated, all of our support services in one location for our kids. We don't have people traveling among 3 buildings. That's a huge piece where we can spend more time servicing kids and less time traveling between buildings. The improved academic achievement and social emotional development, just with all those supports being there and how we can better support our kids. We're seeing that at Maplewood this year. The shared resources for our social emotional learning with Centerstone, and then we have a mental health consultant. And then it also really promotes that cognitive and language skill piece, which are deficits for most of our kids who are being served in our preschool population here in Fayette County that enter at age 3. And then just the continuity of services for our kids who may be transient. They're in one building, some of these kids for 3 years, and that's really beneficial for them too, just to have that connection in the building. Some other pieces, having our coordinators for Head Start housed in one building just really allows for better collaboration between the school and the families. And then just integrating the family engagement piece. If you're familiar with Head Start, one of the big components of that is family engagement. And just getting the parents in and getting them connected and supporting them, because it is a whole family program. It's just not centered on the kids. And then also using the high scope curriculum, which really pushes our kids and helps get them ready for kindergarten and beyond. And then using that same language rich program is another great benefit. And then just the collaboration with having all your preschool staff in one building. And then the opportunities, I know Kelly's mentioned having a coffee type setting for the parents to come in and drop off in the morning, and you already do some things now with the parents, but offering more outreach things for the parents and more educational opportunities for them is huge. Because with a lot of the parents, building that trust is so important, and that pays dividends then when they start K-6. So Maplewood, this is a, you know, something that we've looked at. We looked at all of our buildings. We have 6 elementaries. And so why did we look at Maplewood as the best option? One is the restroom piece. With the classrooms needing to have self-contained restrooms, Maplewood has the most classrooms that already have single-use restrooms inside the rooms. That would be a fairly significant expense if we needed to add those in another building. So that was one of the key factors when we started making some moves last year. Because we would incur some pretty, I don't know what it would cost, but it'd be pretty expensive to plumb in and do bathrooms and build those in our classrooms in other schools. The other factor is the majority of our preschool students live within the city limits, so we really needed a school within the city. And that was another big factor. And then another was Maplewood has seen the most significant decline in enrollment. And they have lost over 100 kids in the last few years. And when I look at their current K-5 students impacted, it's below 200 now. So when you look at 6th graders moving on at the end of this year, we have 195, it changes, but we're around 195 kids at this time who might be impacted with moving to one of the other schools. And then the other is we already have 6 classrooms at Maplewood for preschool. So any questions on any of that? Success story. Kelly, I want you to share this success story. I'm putting you on the spot. But she shared it with me, and Kim said, oh, she teared up. So you've got the personal side.
Here's the short version. So at registration in July, we had a Maplewood child come in who's been a student at Maplewood for years, and Dad came in to register and had 2 little ones with him, and I'm thinking, oh, they're here for me, they're gonna register for preschool, and so I'm trying to bring them over, and the dad says, no, I'm here to register so-and-so, and I said, oh, well, we need to get them in. How old are they? Well, they were 4 and 5, and they had never been in any preschool setting before. Not Head Start, not Title, nothing. So I took them into the gym to play with the Head Start coordinators while they kind of took Dad under their wing and had packets and packets of paperwork for him to fill out. Transportation was amazing. They worked with us to be able to provide transportation to and from for both boys because Dad works, but they stay with us at Maplewood. They can write their names now, they can sustain a task, they can navigate the building independently, they know their colors, they know some of their letters, and they're just the sweetest, most loving 2 little boys you've ever seen, so.
And that last statement, Dad, what Dad says, you know, he always says, I'm so proud, thank you for loving my boys.
That's what got me.
Cool story.
Yeah,
It's
that's a
so
cool
cool.
story.
Check it out. This is a really neat thing, Mr. Dungan. I want to thank you and your team. Our graphic design program at the Career Center, they try to find real-life tasks, you know, things that they're going to use in their career. And so the morning class had this as a project to create the full presentation. I mean, these folks were professional. These high school students had their suits and ties on and dresses, and they had portfolios for us, and they presented their versions of what business cards would look like, letterhead, logos. So then Cabinet and Kelly and Megan, we were the sort of the judges, you know, like a American Idol or whatever, I guess. But
We really did that.
yeah, we really did.
Right.
So anyway, what we did then is we narrowed it down to this was like the overwhelming one. So the student who designed this did some work for us, some little tweaks. And then this is what we picked to be the name of our early childhood center if the board chooses to go that route. And this is student created, and it's just a neat thing. So any thoughts on that?
That's
Great.
cool.
It is so
That's
great.
cool.
So,
Because all those
wanted to
kids
share that.
want to be Spartans.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
So anyway, that's just what a student did over at the Career Center, and that was really a neat process for that. So
Can you tell what student or
Um,
not, or you? It's okay.
it wasn't a Fayette County school student.
That's
It was a
okay.
Centerville
That's okay.
student.
It's a Career Center student.
Steve, do you remember his name? Okay, I'm sorry, I have it written down in my
He always
office.
wanted to be a Spartan.
Right, doesn't matter where they go to school.
What?
Male student in the morning class.
Yeah.
Alright,
We
that
will,
works.
I will tell you, if we do something with this, we will give him credit for that and recognize him, but
But all the presentations that they did were
they were great.
Awesome.
We had some incorporate our train and, you know, the train here and John Connor. I mean, they were really creative when their ideas on how they did, but they got us at the little Spartan guy and his outfit.
Oh, yeah.
So Kelly's gonna get us a little Spartan outfit, and we're gonna march him out on the Spartan Bowl floor with
You're
big
gonna wear it?
Spartan.
You all gonna
No
wear it?
pressure. No, she's gonna find a little.
Oh, okay.
He's gonna wear it.
I am not wearing it, but a little kid.
Okay.
So anyway,
She may have more than one person wanting to do that. She could have a whole
Crew of little Spartans.
crew of little Spartans.
well, Brian wants to do it first, so we'll let him. So anyway, I just want to go back, when I've shared publicly and with you what our goals are, what we're focusing on, this was the one at the top of the list. So, you know, this is something that I believe we as a team here and with Kelly and Megan and looking at what we can do to better serve our kids. Needs are increasing for our kids, and having a devoted center where we can support and grow our program and offer more opportunities for kids, that's what my recommendation is to you. The other side of that is, with that, we would repurpose Maplewood. And we don't want Maplewood to close. It would just be repurposed into an early learning center where we would support hundreds of kids every year and prepare them to be Spartans down the road. You know, and some of the factors that we look at with redistricting, which we desperately need to do, we have a lot of imbalances in our class sizes, but we're facing declining enrollment like much of rural Indiana. That's no secret to anyone. When Orange and Alpina closed and we remained with just 6 elementaries, we had over 2,000 kids, K-6. Since then, we've seen our elementary numbers decline by 426 students. That's over a whole school. Then we look at funding, and I'm not gonna say it's not about finances too, because we don't wanna be in condition that other districts are in the state who are in financial trouble. And we are financially solid, you know, we're very solid right now, and we wanna remain that way. And when you look at, this is just the state tuition amount per student in 2019-20 of over $6,500. Multiply that times 426 students no longer in K-6, that's $2.77 million of lost state funding per year. Our other challenge we see is our classroom disparity in just size. We have a range of 16 to over 30 now, a little over 30 in classrooms. That's an issue. It's a struggle every year trying to balance, and we end up doing a lot of forced transfers. We close classes, and it's a challenge for sure. And then just additionally, the gap in our enrollment numbers is continuing. So just looking at our enrollment, when we look at our ADM count, that's the yearly count the state takes, and that's what determines our funding. Now we have a second count day that's in February again, but when we use our September dates as reported to the state, that shows our decline. And this was the first year after Alpine and Orange closed in 2011. And then I wanted to share our current school totals. When you look at our enrollment, Eastview is the anomaly in this, and we moved our life skills programs there this year. So there were 19 students, but Eastview has maintained. I will tell you, we have a lot of transfers that have gone into Eastview. We have a lot of out-of-county transfers that are at Eastview. So those numbers have remained stable. Eastview is pretty full. We're pretty stable with their enrollment. Everton, you see they've lost almost 50. Fayette Central's lost almost 80. Frazie's lost over 100. Grandview's lost 93, and then Maplewood's down 119. So these are the numbers. This is the reality where we're at with our elementaries. Any thoughts?
We haven't redistricted at all
Since 2011.
Since 2011.
Yeah, so.
Maybe mention about staffing.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because you asked for, I
Yeah,
didn't
no,
realize we
that's
were
fine.
done.
So, you know, our goals. So here's, as we as a team work on this, look at what we need to do, we need to try to better balance class sizes. We're never gonna have a perfect model in a county-wide district. When you look at Everton and Fayette Central, You know, we're working with Terry Miller on Transfinder and mapping, and today we were looking at maps and just messing with some boundaries to see. We have areas of the county where there's just a handful of kids in a, 20-mile, 30-mile area, quarter-mile area, and then, our density certainly within the city limits. And so our challenge is we bus kids all the way out to Orange, all the way up to Bentonville, and we may have 1 or 2 kids up in the Bentonville area, but it takes an extra 10 or 15 minutes to run a bus up there to get 1 child. And I know that's a big issue for Darrell that we're going to continue to face just because we're a countywide district with 215 square miles. And that's a challenge. Another one of the goals would be to better support and staff our remaining 5 elementaries. We have limited staffing with title. If we better balance these schools, we might be able to provide some more title staff at each building and to get some more of our supports for our social emotional learning piece, which is crucial. We want to maintain that strong financial position. We continue to do more with less. As we've shared and Janie has shared, we're facing a $1.5 million deficit with property tax caps this year. That's significant, and when you factor in a loss of $2.77 million just for elementary decline, that's significant. So we are continuing to operate in a fiscally responsible way, and we're still financially strong. But we need to continue to find ways to take steps along the way so we don't have to reach a point where we're desperate. And we have a neighboring school that is desperate. They're going to run out of money in a couple of years if they don't do something. We would not eliminate any teachers or RIF them. We would handle that through attrition like we have over the years. This board and administration has always been one we don't want to RIF. As people retire or relocate, that's how we reduce positions. So I think that's important, and I assured our Maplewood staff of that when I just talked with them about this. Everyone will have a position, we just don't know where that will work until the board decides, and then what we do with redistricting, but that's an important piece. And then we'll still allow transfers. I know that would be a concern of some parents is, what if I've always sent my kid to Frazee and I live in the Everton district? And, we'll still offer those opportunities. They'll go through Kim's office as the assistant superintendent. But we hope to be able to better balance classes so we don't have the 14 student spread. Maybe we keep it manageable. But it's going to be something the next superintendent has to deal with too at this point. So this is a step to try to keep us in good condition, hopefully for 7 to 8 years, maybe more. I can't see that far ahead. So I want to talk about our proposed timeline. I think it's important that the public and our staff and you all have an idea of what this is subject to change a little bit, so I try to be specific enough. Tonight, presenting this to you, we have an executive session on February 24th. I would like to schedule a public work session to follow up, ask questions. We get questions from the community at that meeting. I'd like to propose 6 for that and then do the executive right after for me, if that's okay with the board, and we'll work that out. And then March 10th, look at proposing this with some final recommendations. There are some pieces with the Head Start, if we're going to move those classrooms. That's part of the grant that Kelly has to submit to the federal government. So we are under a little bit of a timeline there, but I don't want that to be the factor that we have to rush if you're not ready to make a decision. But, this is just sort of a timeline that I think is manageable. Then if the board does approve, then we would begin working on the redistricting maps, finalizing those and putting those out for the community to look at, for the board to review, for our staff to review, and then present those back on May 12th for final presentation. We may have to tweak some things and seek feedback. So that would be the plan at the May 12th board meeting to, approve the new district boundaries. I don't think we're gonna have to make tons of moves, but we're gonna impact, obviously, the kids who are moving schools for, like Maplewood, if that were to be repurposed. And then we're gonna have to shift some boundaries to move kids out to the county schools. That's our biggest challenge is Everton and Fayette Central, because the population's just not out there. And a lot of kids have aged out of the elementary ages, and people aren't moving because they're established in those rural areas on their farms or whatever. So we just don't have young kids there. Some of the older neighborhoods in town, Hanson Meadows is starting to see a turnover with younger families. Out by the high school, we're seeing a lot of turnover with younger families, and I think the real estate market's really doing well. There's a demand for family homes, from what I hear, people looking for homes to move up to.
Oh, yes,
So,
there's a shortage.
Yeah, so, and then we would advertise those boundary maps. I would ask Bob at the newspaper to advertise those and get the word out. And then we would offer the initial student transfer request, as we do every year through Kim's office, for parents who may want to say, I'd like for my kid to go to Eastview. And then we're hopefully gonna have class sizes, we can cap them, and then know how many we can accept at each school to keep our numbers more consistent. And then in June, we'll notify all parents about their location. I said late June, it might be earlier, but it's a big job, so I want to be conservative. So that's all I have. I welcome you. This is more of a discussion, but you're welcome to ask questions or other information you want me to get for the board or public. I'm happy to do that. It's a big decision in the life of our district. It's something that I don't take lightly.
Balancing all those classrooms that's real important for the students and the teachers. It's something that the kids will benefit from.
It is.
Do we have good information now with the through transportation as to where these kids that live out of the city of Connersville live? And is this pretty, I don't want to call it stable, maybe that's not the right word, but in other words, are these going to be kids that are probably going to be there? You're not going, within the city limits, you get a lot of transiency. I don't know if we see that much out in the county or not.
Not nearly as much. And I think if Brian and Kathy were here, they have some, but not like we do in our city schools.
Brian is here.
Brian, are you here? Okay, Brian, you're hiding back there. But looking at transiency, yeah. Certainly reducing our city schools to 3 is going to help with some of that transiency too. And, we'll certainly work with Daryl and we've already talked about how can we provide busing for kids who move in the middle of a semester to better, that's a challenge now. But it's something we continually work on, trying to help provide that busing when we can. I mean, it's going to be easier to do that with 3 schools rather than 4 for certain.
And also, one consideration with busing is the time, the amount of time that the kids are on the bus.
Right.
Because we're stretching that with some of the kids that live out in the hinterlands now. And that's a real concern that you'd have, I'm sorry, a first grader that's been on a bus for an hour when they get to school is probably not going to fare as well as the one that's been on for 10 minutes.
He's hangry.
He's hangry and he's probably asleep.
He's ready to eat and he's probably, but no, I agree. And, you look at Brian's district, and I will tell you, Terry, are you here?
Yeah.
Terry's been excellent. We brought up the map today, and it shows every student by grade level in the school, where they're at on their, geocoded on their address. So that's what he just got it live with us, so we were able to look at it today. So we are capable now of redistricting and showing you and everyone else where each kid will lie by grade, which is important. So we are now able to do that, and that's crucial with this program.
What's the longest bus ride any of our kiddos have?
Probably close to an hour.
Yeah. Are those some kids way out by Orange that are? Yeah.
And Brian,
For us, Scott, is Eastview has 31 kids that gets transferred in. They get drove in over there. And a big thing that's gonna help us is this here forced transfer stuff. When Maplewood's full, we have to take them to Frazee, or we have to take them from Eastview to Maplewood, or, that's a lot of extra transportation that we shouldn't be doing right now. It'll save a lot of money.
Is there any thought to, for the kids that are in the Maplewood district, how many kids in the Maplewood district actually walk to school? Is there anybody that still walks to school anymore?
Oh, yeah, they're in a walk zone. There's probably, I would guess there's probably a good 50 or 55 kids that walk.
My question would be, would it be a practical situation, instead of busing those kids someplace, to have them meet at Maplewood as usual and then just bus them from there? Rather than picking them up at their original houses, if they walk to Maplewood, have a bus stop at Maplewood and then disperse them.
Most of those areas are bus stops anyway, and
Yeah.
most of them walk too. I would say
Yeah,
55 is, I would say that's high.
That's way high.
That's
No more than
like way
25.
No,
I'd say
I
it's one.
okay, I just wasn't aware of the number, Stephanie, because I've seen school districts that have used that. We're one of the, we don't use bus stops the way some other school corporations use bus stops. We stop much more frequently than some other, than other corporations.
We're working on it.
And all of our, you know, Frazee has kids that walk the crossing guard there at 44,
Right.
across from Subway. We, Grandview has the walking zone, so we have the walking zones in the city. The Maplewood kids, I think because it's such a dense, small area, they have the smallest district already, that the bus stops, there will be more bus stops where 5 or 6 kids might get
Okay.
on at one time.
Okay.
Because Daryl works on that, you know, that's always a goal of theirs, is to, you know, get them safe to where they can be close to home, but yet walk half a block to a corner. They really try to, have made a lot of effort in doing that to do
I
that.
think
So
one
we'll-
of the things that was surprising to me, and that speaks to yours about the kids being on the bus so long. When we were looking at those maps, when you go up to the northeast section of the county, there were only like half a dozen kids or so. So when you have to pick them up and then try and at least partially fill the bus, you have to drive a longer way to not just send one bus up there for 6 kids. So some of that where you have vast areas of no students catching the bus impact those drives. So, you know, I mean, what are you gonna do, send one bus up there to pick up 6 kids to take them so that they have a 20-minute bus ride instead of maybe an hour, whatever? That's not
That's the challenge.
practical either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And I,
So-
yeah, and I talked about that. That's one of our challenges. We're a countywide district. And we're always gonna have those outliers. That's where their parents choose to live, and it's out in the country.
Yep.
There may be one kid on, I mean, you have some buses that go down a mile-long road and they pick up one kid and, you know, or 2 miles out or whatever, but that's what we provide, is we provide transportation to all of our
Well,
kids.
even,
And-
even within the city, without any public transportation in the city, other than the, it's called the senior center, and that's really open to everybody, but transportation in Connersville is an issue, for, ask the people that walk up to Walmart.
Yep.
Yeah.
We did have one Uber driver, but I don't know. Good job for you. So, no, I don't want to belabor that. I want to
Yeah.
present this, and then I welcome any questions, or if there's any information you want me to provide, and then I'd like to follow up with it in February 24th meeting, and have that as a public work session, if that's the board's, if you're okay with that.
I think that makes good sense.
It does. It takes, we're in a tough situation.
And that gives Bob time to get some information out in the paper too, and, you know, we wanna be as transparent as we can about this, and this is a big decision. I think the preschool is, to me, a no-brainer. I think it's only gonna pay dividends down the road. I think the big decision is, are we ready to do that, and then look at redistricting? That's the other big factor, so those are the
Well,
things I want
We
to.
haven't redistricted in 9 years, and that's just,
It's not popular.
well, but we're not closing a school. It was very tough last time because we closed 2 schools.
And we're gonna try to limit it, and we're gonna try to impact as few kids as possible. But there will be movement at all 6 schools, just because we have to move some kids out to the county schools too. And there are some boundaries, we might just move back to where they were before 2011. You know, as we looked at some of the old boundaries, we could just move this back and it would become that school's district again. That may be-
Everton and Eastview.
There's some areas there,
Yeah.
so.
Thank
That's
you,
really
Scott.
all I had, so
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, seeing no more comments. Public comments. Persons wishing to make the board aware of suggestions, ideas, and/or comments may address the board at this time. Comments which involve personnel or students must be discussed in private. Seeing none, we'll move on to report items. Superintendent discussion group reports. I suppose that falls under legislative, and I will just say that today was the Indiana School Board Association State House Day. So, and I attended that. We had a nice panel discussion with 6 legislators. including Senator Rotz, the head of the Education Committee. And then I was able to meet with Senator Lysing and discuss a couple of bills, one of which she's pushing for. So that was enjoyable, and I encourage the board, any chance you get to go to ISBA things, they're usually pretty interesting. Okay, principal directors reports.
As you know, yesterday we had a power outage at the high school. It was a great way to start the week. We had never had a power outage in the morning as kids were coming in. We've had them during the day, and kids were able to stay in their classrooms, and we could house them there safely. When the power went out, it was pretty dark in our building. I mean, the sun wasn't fully up, and so I want to publicly thank my staff for taking charge. We didn't have a lot of communication. The battery on our PA system went down in about 15 minutes. I'm telling you, I was sitting at my desk, typing an email, everything went black, and I looked at my computer and it was beeping already. I said a bad word. Walked out in the hallway and there was Mrs. Corsaro. So it wasn't quite that quick, but I'll tell you, the cabinet showed up and helped supervise, and I want to publicly thank the four for coming in the building. It was a learning situation for all of us, but our staff and students, and with help from the central office, got through it, and no one was hurt in the darkness.
Yay, thanks, Randy. Any other principals, directors? Daryl?
Sharon, it's gonna snow tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we ain't ready for that. Scott and I have been talking a little bit about our new bus arm cameras again, and he just wanted me to give you guys some information about them. We've turned in 147 tickets since the first day of school.
Or pictures, right, video.
Pictures. We have turned in 147 citations. They have wrote 147 citations, and for whatever reason, they have given fines to 67 of them. So we get a kickback off of, not really a kickback, we get back into Safe School $50 if they write a ticket the right way. They are deferring them, so we're not getting really anything. So in our account right now, we have $50.
But that's to help purchase.
I know we got another $50 coming because two cops got one on Friday on Indiana Avenue up there. So I don't know how to make it any different. I mean, the police are working really well with us. I'd like to thank the city and the state and the county all because they've been very good. We just got to figure out how to get it into our account now. So, I mean, if they write those deferrals and they're $200 a piece, it's over $13,000 they've made off of it. And I mean, we send the 2 pictures and the video to them to help make this possible.
Prosecutor.
And that's just on like, what, 9 buses?
We only have 5 buses that you guys approved for me that have the cameras, so we're averaging about 30 per bus of those 5. So they're doing their job and they're in the right areas, so we are getting safer, but then we've made a couple of changes to get Grand Avenue a little more opened up for people, but overall, we're still having problems on Fountain over by Eastview, Indiana Avenue behind the school, State Road 1, Vine, Ranch. Those are all big problem areas.
We had, what, 3 today or 2?
We had 4 today, 4 that we turned in from yesterday, and I got 4 to look at in the morning. It's scary, it really is. We had one that we couldn't do anything with, but we had out here on 44, a bus heading west, turns its light on, coming 44 east, going to turn here on Gray Road, as they're in the turn lane, and they stop, open the door because red light's already come on, car went around it on the right-hand side. Had a kid got off that bus, we'd have had him.
So Indiana Code, one thing that changed, and Daryl, I appreciate your work, he's been pretty tenacious, but as a part of that Safe Schools money, you know, there's a really big focus after the tragedy up north with the children being killed, that they want schools to have $50 earmarked from this for the Safe Schools so we can invest in more of the technology for this as a preventative or, you know, measure. And that was where we thought we were getting that piece because we're handing them the high definition pictures and the proof. But yet, you know, for some reason, they're choosing not to pursue over half of these and do anything, and then the money's going into the county's pockets and not ours. And Bob had done an article a while back, or Kate, about that, and it even quoted that the $50 goes to the school. Well, I asked Daryl to find out how much, and we got $50. So, we gotta figure out what's going on, because that would we would be able to buy a couple more cameras for our buses with that. We're not wanting to make money off this, but we're wanting to better equip our buses
Right,
as allowed by the state statute.
This has got to be a prosecutor's office thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's,
Isn't it? I think it is, yeah.
I mean, if you said 147 or something, they've only had 69,
67.
67.
80 of them are.
That's,
From what
I
I
can't
talked to
tell you
the
what's
police, they're
happening.
sending the citations to out, so, I mean, it's gotta be somewhere between the police and, you know.
Yeah, but, it's, again, I don't want it up that we're trying to make money off our taxpayers, but, that's an Indiana code that we can get more equipment, and that's all we're trying to figure out. So Daryl's been working with them, and
We'd rather not make $1.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Have
You know,
nobody.
but anytime you guys wanna stop and see what I send them, feel free to stop in the office, I can show you the videos. I mean, they're pretty clear.
I just hope
cut.
after this year, I mean, I hope at some point you see it going down. Like,
Yes.
there's been enough of this, people getting tickets that they're like, oh, yeah. I can't
and we don't
do
want
this.
people to we don't want anyone to be cited,
Right.
but just like that situation, if a child had been getting off the bus, which could have happened because we are dropping kids on the right side, that could have been bad. So people need to be aware and slow down, replan their routes. So, thank you. Thanks, Daryl.
Thank you, Daryl.
thanks, Daryl.
Any other,
I just
yes?
had a quick announcement. We set the date this week for Special Olympics, so it'll be May 18th. So if you have time to stop by and come to that event,
Is it
Connersville-
here?
It's here again.
Okay.
So we'll be hosting again here in Connersville, and Centerville will be coming down with their students as well.
It's a great event.
Yeah.
Three quick things, thanks to Randy and Central Office yesterday for the power outage, that was a lot of fun.
I paid the bill.
Yeah, especially when you have 4 sending school buses that are en route to a black building, that made it really difficult. We were able to get those stopped thanks to the principals and superintendents, so that was great. Randy worked with us great, and like I said, Brian was a big help yesterday morning, as Crystal Howe was and Jamie. Secondly, February 20th, 5:30 to 7:30 is our open house. I did not bring you any snacks tonight, but I can guarantee that we'll supersede what's on that table, which is going to be available in the restaurant if you choose to come.
What time
Just
is
because
that?
I'm not. What'd you say, Mark?
What time?
5:30 to 7:30.
Thank you.
I think the cosmetology students may be doing some like facials, pedicures, things like that. They can get additional hours. Janie's a big cosmetology program fan.
I know.
And lastly, thank you for the consideration on the engines and the chairs. Like I said, scrap, we took 2 big machines over break and they were about $500, and we're looking to get $3,000 out of something that really has no value or worth, because the company's
Yeah,
gonna
that was
resell
great.
them and repurpose. So I thank you for that.
And when I was in there, the girls are really excited about maybe being able to buy the chairs
Oh,
that you
yay.
approved to help them get a jump start on their career. You know, they're worn out to us, but
But
they'd be
them,
great for
for them,
them.
for starting.
So,
I have 2 things. We had our first kids' kitchen cupboard Thursdays. We now have all our third Thursdays covered volunteers with teams and other schools, so we have all the volunteers that we needed. We have probably 600 egg cartons that we're using for eggs that we've got. So we had a drive for all the fresh eggs. We had a group of students who made a campaign and rallied around that, so it was really cool. It was a 6th grade kids project. Second, I just wanted to thank Kim and Scott. Change is hard, and I just want to thank them for being transparent with our staff and trying to ease the fears. We just appreciate the graciousness and taking time to answer the questions for the teachers.
Aw, great. Any other directors' reports or principals? Seeing none, Director of Human Resources report.
So we are in desperate need of guest instructors. So
That's a good way of putting it.
that job posting is always up. Bob and I have had some communication about getting an ad in the paper. So if anyone in the audience knows of anyone, or if anyone out in TV land knows of anyone who wants to be a guest instructor, call me, because we'll put you to work. So
It's very rewarding, I mean, to make an impact in kids' lives, positive way is huge. And if we don't get any, Brian's gonna be in a costume out on the major thoroughfares.
Right, with a big sign
Big
and.
sign, so
Like
I didn't tell you
the-
that.
Statue of Liberty.
Statue of Liberty.
Like that little Spartan out there when Kelly names him.
There you
With one of
go.
those signs.
Like the progressive sign.
Yeah,
he looks
Brian looks real thrilled.
He looks thrilled.
Director of Finance report?
Yeah, well, along the same line as Mrs. McCann, I want to thank Stephanie and Kelly for their support of moving the kids' kitchen cupboard over to Maplewood. We've had good success. The first week was a little slow. The second week was really good. We're still serving kids at the high school with pre-made bags, so we've not dropped our support there. Rachel has been outstanding. We are participating in what's called the Hatch program. We have 96 dozen eggs on order for the pantry for, the 2 weeks are back to back, and they actually have a life of a month. So we're gonna try that. We've used these donation funds that have been made to the pantry. Eggs are a significant source of protein for our kiddos. So we're hoping that the parents will take advantage of that. So I think it's really, really exciting having it over there. The last thing I want to bring to everybody's attention is this is a big year for the United States. It's the year of the census. And while most people just think, oh, I don't want to fill that out or whatever, it is super important to us for everyone to fill that out. We need to make sure that we encourage our parents to fill that out. It drives funding for us, whether it's special ed, Title I, Title IV, which is where we pay Mrs. Steffi from, Title II for improving teaching, which is professional development and/or class size reduction. It also impacts food assistance, which includes free and reduced lunch support. So it's critical for us to capture as many people in our community as we can. So I know a lot of people don't watch the video or the TV3, but if you get a chance, please make sure that you bring it up for people to support the census because it is important to the schools. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good point for us to know. Assistant Superintendent report.
I just want to kind of circle back around and thank WCC and the kids at the graphic design. It was so impressive, and I know they do a lot. The next day, they were actually doing something for the Hope Center, but I think there's so many opportunities there for our kids, and sometimes we don't give them the acknowledgement that they deserve. So kudos to them and their staff and all the great programs that they have there.
Mrs. Casaro, Caden Walters was a student.
Oh, he remembered. There you go.
And he was in the accounts.
And he did, and they all did an awesome job.
Kyle Dwyer Viatex.
Yeah. Hey, that works. And Kyle, she did an awesome job too, working with Kelly and getting the kids prepared. I mean, so many of our kids need that confidence of speaking in front of people and learning how to present their ideas. And it was overwhelming to me to see them in action. So kudos to you guys. And then lastly, I attended the Head Start Carnival, was it last Thursday? Last Thursday, and I couldn't believe, at first I was like, okay, wait a minute, I'm not in the right spot because there were cars everywhere. She had an unbelievable amount of parents there, and I think Head Start, Kelly and her staff, they do such a great job of starting our youngest learners off with a bang, and I just appreciate their enthusiasm. When you go through there, it doesn't matter what position they hold in Head Start, they're all there working and building relationships with their parents and our kids, and it's very nice to see, so kudos to you guys.
Superintendent's report, thanks.
Well, they took my stuff, so I'm not gonna say a whole lot, I guess, believe it or not, I'm gonna be pretty quiet, but I wanna welcome Justin. You sat through a long meeting, I know that's, but Mr. Duncan, would you be sure to give him some Spartan gear so he can wear it proudly down in the southern part of the state? Okay, so I would like to see that worn daily down in your neck of the woods for the next few months, but I say welcome. Got a lot of great kids in our football program, we look forward to you joining us, and and moving us forward. So, thank you, and that's it.
For the good of the cause, anybody have anything they want to bring up? Chris?
Well, just think about that redistricting plan, and I'm hoping that Scott gives us time to get unlisted phone numbers.
They were in the newspaper the other day, so.
Oh, really? Yeah,
front
they
page.
were. Really? Oh, yeah.
So you've got about a month here, so.
Just as a gentle reminder, the boy-girl Spartanette dance is February 21st. That's on a Friday night. It's always a lot of fun, and I've actually been part of one of the practices, and it's really cool. The kids will do a great job. And also, our CHS Spartanettes are going to be performing this Saturday at a Ball State University boys basketball game as halftime entertainment. So that's quite a kudo for our kids to get that exposure. They go to camp there, and from their camp experience, then they were invited to, and so they're in the MAC, and they will be on TV maybe if they decide to show any of the halftime, because the MAC schools are on TV. But boy, girl, and also coaches for 4 Quarters for Cancer is coming up also. And let's just be frank, let's do a better job this year. Let's beat Franklin County this year. That would be really nice. So lots of good stuff happening, and the kids are getting very much involved with that, which is a lot of fun.
Anything else? Okay, it's that time.
I so moved.
Just asking for a motion to adjourn, in case you wondered, this is our routine. Thank
We
you,
do have a
Dennis.
recess.
All those, raise your hand to approve, thank you. Adjourn. And we'll stick around for a reception.